1769, on the small Mediterranean island of Corsica, an emperor is born. He would lead France into military victory, emerge from the revolution a hero, and become the first emperor of France. His life began when he was born to descendants of Italian nobility. His father had been a representative on the court of Louis XVI. His family, although not exorbitantly wealthy, was fairly affluent. He was raised speaking Corsican and did not learn French until the age of 10. He enrolled in a military academy in northern France, the Royal Military School of Briand-le-Château in northern France, where his headmaster described Napoleon as a thoughtful and gloomy character. He had no playmate and walked about by himself. He had ability and learned quickly. If I scolded him, he answered in a cold, almost imperious tone, "Sir, I know it." After graduating from Briand, Napoleon attended the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. His advanced intellectual ability and thick Corsican accent made him a target for teasing by his peers. Despite this, Napoleon's education at both Briand and the École Militaire profoundly influenced his long-term military outlook and core principles, valuing equality over law and a strong, rational government where leaders were elected on the basis of merit, as opposed to the standard class and monetary influence. Napoleon began his military career as an artillery officer in the company of the 1st Battalion of the Regiment de la Fère, one of the 5 oldest artillery regiments where, at the age of 16, Napoleon was one of the youngest officers.
The revolution began in 1789, and Bonaparte was an avid supporter. In 1793, he published a pro-republican pamphlet titled The Supper at Beaucaire, in which a revolutionary soldier counters an anti-revolution sentiment of 4 merchants. The publication was read and praised by Auguste Robespierre, the younger brother of Maximilien Robespierre. The pamphlet advanced Napoleon's status as a revolutionary leader and politician. Following its publication, he was promoted to senior gunner during the siege of Toulon, a victory that reaffirmed his status as an effective military leader and promoted Napoleon to the status of brigadier general. The catalyst for Bonaparte's military success was 13 Vendémiaire, otherwise known as October 1795, wherein Bonaparte successfully defeated a royalist uprising in urban Paris. Defeated, the royalists quelled the threat of a convention. Napoleon would be promoted to General de Division and given command of Italy. He left Paris to take command of Italy. France's annexation of Belgium in 1795 thrust France into further fighting with Austria and England. Napoleon strategized that in order to conquer Austria, he must first sever Austria with its northern Italian source of Lombardy. After multiple attempts by the Austrian army to conquer Italy, victory was achieved in January 1797. After Napoleon led an army of 23,000 troops against a significantly larger Austrian offense in the Battle of Rivoli, Napoleon's successful overthrow of Austria showcased his fanatical military tactics. He disregarded traditional customs, wherein opposing forces would coordinate the time and date of battles, and instead randomly attacked the Austrian forces. He originally planned for an invasion of Britain, but after deciding that they were too powerful for the French army, he decided to invade Egypt instead in a strategic attempt to cut off Britain from its trade route to India. A move that would mean that it would take an additional 6 months for them to get to India, a major financial blow to Britain. He also hoped to establish a more dominant French presence in the Middle East. In May of 1798, Napoleon helped lead a group of French scientists on an expedition. The Rosetta Stone, the key in unlocking Egyptian hieroglyphics, was amongst their discoveries. The French under Napoleon won key battles against the Egyptians, most notably the Battle of the Pyramids against the Egyptian Mamluks. Encouraged by his victories, Napoleon then traveled to the Ottoman Empire in what is now Syria. His army became weakened by disease, specifically the bubonic plague. He was forced to return to Egypt and sailed to France in August of 1799, where he was welcomed as a hero. He then formed a military alliance with various political leaders to essentially overthrow the Directory, which happened on November 9th, 1799. He essentially gave himself the leadership position, adding his power to the new constitution.
Napoleon's domestic rule began with the coup of 1799. He was brought in by Abbé Emmanuel Siey and Pierre Roger Ducos, with whom he successfully helped stabilize the coup. With this access to political power, Napoleon was able to establish a consulate along with Siey and Ducos, placing him at the head as first consul. After Siey and Ducos resigned, Napoleon remained the single all-powerful leader. As Napoleon himself
The
said,
revolution is over. I am the revolution.
under Napoleon, the consulate would effectively end the revolution, abolishing the Directory and fulfilling the goals of the Third Estate. The Civil Code of 1804, now commonly known as the Napoleonic Code, abolished hereditary privilege, gave peasants the right to own land, and destroyed feudal privileges. By creating security for the bourgeoisie, Napoleon's reputation as a hero of the common people began to shift into that of a great political leader. One of Bonaparte's first achievements as leader was making peace with France's enemies. One key instance was in the Treaty of Amiens, which ended war with Britain. Though this peace did not last long, by calming the instabilities and pressures of warfare, Napoleon gave the public a further sense of security and more confidence in him as a leader. In addition to catering to the needs of the bourgeoisie and making peace with outside enemies, Napoleon obtained a type of control of the Catholic Church through the Concordat of 1801. The French Catholic Church's actions during the Revolution had spurred a lot of domestic opposition. In the Concordat, Bonaparte and Pope Pius VII required the clergy to swear an oath of loyalty to the state, forced refractory and revolutionary clergy to resign, and made the Church give up claims to confiscated property. In 1802, Napoleon gained even more power when the Organic Articles established state supremacy over the Church.
Napoleon's rise to the highest seat of power in France was characterized by both unrelenting ambition and strategic victory. While his humble beginnings on an island in the Mediterranean made him an outcast to his peers, he rose above petty ridicule to develop into both an intellectual and strategic force determined to alter contemporary military discourse. His actions in both Italy and Egypt showcase his unrivaled strategy that elevated a small, exhausted, and ill-equipped army into the status of victor. Military transformed into political force and social reformer, he helped to conclude the revolution, placating France's enemies and satisfying its middle class. As first consulate, he secured every part of the government as his own, including the church. He was a champion and leader of the people, the first emperor of France.